And welcome to the UFC, to Quebec's own. I mean, listen, so sure, Montreal's own Yohan Lainesse, the White Lion, who's going to be taking on gifted Gabe Green coming up this weekend in a big-time fight at welterweight. And if I know anything about these two guys, they are very, very fun to watch, and they are very, very exciting strikers. And for Gabe Green, came into the UFC on very short notice to take on Daniel Rodriguez. And in that fight, yes, he lost by decision, but he impressed everybody. And a lot of people get excited about what could be with Gabe Green because you look back at his record and you might see the fact that 2 of his losses, they're by knockout. And then you go back and you go, was the most impressive one against Jalen Turner, who was 21 at the time with Bellator? No, I think it was against a man named Randon Abafo on War on the Valley Aisle 5. He lost in the main event of that card. You had Sumiko Inaba and Zach Zane on that one. Very, very exciting Hawaiian fighters. But really, with Gabe Green, he loses that fight to Daniel Rodriguez, comes back his next time out, gets a big win over Phil Rowe. And this isn't the last time you'll hear me talk about Phil Rowe coming up on this card today. But for Gabe Green, he has been out for a while since that fight against Phil Rowe. And a lot of people might go, well, what's the scoop? I haven't read anything anywhere. Let me take you on the journey that was my research for this fight, because I listened to a lot of interviews. I listened to some from Yohan Lainesse. I listened to one from Gabe Green, who's been off for a year and 2 months. So he had laser eye surgery. He wanted the 20/20. He gets it done. But in the process of getting that done, he did have a fight booked last year, wasn't able to make the walk. He was supposed to take on one Dwight Grant, who was a recipient of a terrible, terrible knockout by a Honda. Could you imagine getting hit by a Honda?
It's like fighting Francis Ngannou.
It was wild. It was amazing. But if you look at it for Gabe Green, he has this interview with Ryan Gerald. Now, it came out on March 10th, so we're April 24th, so it's been a little bit of time. But really, Ryan likes to poke at the start of his interviews if somebody's been out for a while. Why have you been out for a while? And then he asks really good follow-up questions to get more out of it. Gabe says, well, I had a little bit of an accident in practice, and this is in quotes. Got hit in the heart. Like, a heart attack. But then he backtracks on. He's like, no, but it wasn't a heart attack. Bruised my heart. Not really a heart attack. Only spent a few days in hospital, but also was texting loved ones that obviously he loved them. Like, it was a bad spot for Gabe Green. He was sidelined for a couple months after that. Couldn't do anything. Couldn't train. Couldn't run. Couldn't do anything strenuous on his heart. And then a couple of months again, he had that eye surgery before that. So Gabe Green got hit in the heart in practice. It was bruised. It was that chemical that's associated with heart attacks that his body was producing. So then he had to stay in the hospital. And then he was sidelined for a couple months. So, a lot of people going through a lot of tough stuff in life. Friggin' Gabe Green nearly had a heart attack. Like, that's scary.
And I don't mean to poke fun. Who was the WWE fighter who had the heart punch?
I don't know.
You don't remember that? There was someone back in the day. Weird finishing move. That really is a serious injury, though. And it's similar to, like, when you hear CJ McCollum missed half of last season with a punctured lung. It's like, really? That's the thing that an athlete got? It's just not really something you'd always associate. But it's nice to see that Gabe Green's doing well enough now that he got cleared by the commissioner. We're all good to go for this weekend. This fight's going to be really interesting because Gabe Green should win. He is the more skilled striker, I would say. But I do believe he's the more hittable striker to a certain degree, and that really is a big issue for him because he has huge power, but we have seen the holes in his own defense quite often. And not to just bring it up because it's just fresh in my memory, what happened to Dillian Whyte yesterday? Loaded up on a left hook because he was getting hit by a lot of jabs at long distance, so he had to close the distance, load up on a left, walked into an uppercut. Gabe Green kind of fights in that style where it's like, okay, if you're hitting me at a long range, eventually I gotta go for broke, get on the inside. And when he does close that distance, get on the inside, he's susceptible to getting hit by big power shots. Like, Jalen Turner's a good fighter, but Jalen Turner at 21 is probably not like a murderous puncher with his ability, but he has really good timing, and that's the thing that Jalen Turner is always really been known for, and that's been able to carry him even now. Gabe Green has those openings in his game, so even though he might be the more skilled striker going into this fight, I do feel like the negatives in his game make this fight much closer than it has to be.
And I mean, Gabe Green, his last time out against Philip Rowe, had 2 knockdowns, one in round 2, one in round 3, great kicks, good boxing, eats a fair amount of shots. And the weirdest part about it is, I'm talking, about him as a striker, just like Natan Levy. Natan Levy, great karate fighter, lots of submission wins on his record. Gabe Green, great striker, also happens to have 6 of 10 wins by submission, and all 6 are by rear naked choke. So he's got his way about it, and he likes to go for it. Now with Yohan Lainesse, our man out of Quebec, spending time with, a guy who's going to corner him coming up this weekend, Matt, former title challenger, Quebecer Patrick Cote is in his corner, and if you look at it, training in and around the Montreal area, gyms apart from TriStar, because he doesn't train at TriStar, not everybody in Montreal does, but he spent some time training at Niagara Top Team. I listened to an interview from James Lynch, Overtime Heroics. He said he's known about this fight for about 2.5 months, which is good for both guys, really, to get set and ready for it. Listen, he's full-time into MMA, is Yohan Lainesse. You like to hear that about a prospect coming into the UFC, really investing in themselves. Obviously, he's undefeated, and, I mean, the craziest part about it is you talked about the defensive liabilities of Gabe Green. I don't know if anybody's gone out and watched Yohan Lainesse over on Contender Series this past year. Nobody will shut the F up about his opponent, Justin Burlinson. It is nothing about Yohan Lainesse. Everybody's just sitting there, oh, Justin, he's 17 and wasn't as an amateur.
Right now.
He's such a good striker. He's a 5-1 favorite to win this fight. Justin's going to win this fight. And then they throw it on over there to Dan Hellie and to Yanni, and it's like, yep, Justin Burlinson's going to win this one. I don't like to pick favorites. He's going to win. Listen, I tried to put myself in everybody's mindset, and after watching a lot of Yohan Lainesse on the regional scene before Contender Series, I went, yeah, everybody here has a point. Like, you can sit here like us right now and go, okay, Yohan's the one that's in the UFC, finished that fight by finish, looked really good. But if you go back and watch the tape, I mean, Yohan, really, really long power shots, leaves himself completely open to get hit, but rarely ever does, which is the craziest part about it.
He's huge for the weight class.
He's giant, and so I listened to it on his CFFC fight when he was taking on Cuts. It was his title challenge, and listen, CM Punk, first of all, makes fun of the fact that, yeah, Yohan's from Quebec, and the Canadians weren't able to beat the Tampa Bay Lightning. Way to go, CM Punk. Good one there, pal.
A trickster.
He said that Yohan told him the morning of the fight in the gym that he weighed 192 pounds. So, yeah, Yohan Lainesse is going to be one of the bigger welterweights that you're going to see. He's improving in his wrestling, probably not his best skill set. But when it comes to this guy's power, like, its shots come from such weird angles. Guys almost don't see it coming.
It's over 9,000. And that's the thing about Lainesse. If he does start landing some of those long shots, and I don't even mean damaging shots at long range, if he can just jab Gabe Green or leg kick him at distance, you're going to force him to start moving closer and closer and closer to you. And that's just going to help Lainesse land one of those big power shots, because it's going to make Gabe Green, who's already quite easy to hit, even more available for him. That's why I do think, stylistically, this fight's very fun, but I still believe Gabe Green is the more skilled guy, because even if things on the feet are going 50-50 for him, he will be able to take it down to the ground. Now, the thing about Green, and I'm happy that you brought up how he gets every submission the exact same way, that normally doesn't speak to high-level grappling. He normally hurts guys that'll get to their back, or they're very tired and it'll get to their back. He's not like a Damian Maia, who's going to slowly get you up against the cage and start to slowly progress his way from guard to half guard to side control to the back. So, he is kind of basic with his grappling, but it is very effective up until this point, and I do like that he has that plan B if things aren't going well for him on the feet, especially against Lainesse, who, like you said, his wrestling's getting better, but he's still one of these fighters who his offensive wrestling seems to progress quite a bit, but the defensive wrestling is still something you have to worry about a little bit, especially against a guy like Green, who should be able to disguise some of his level changes with his strikes and with his wrestling.
That's what I see in this one, and I mean, for the odds, you have Green opening a plus 160 underdog. He's minus 114 favorite right now. For Lainesse, open a minus 185. Now at a minus 107. We have a look at the Tapology vote. Surprise to us there, to you. Matt, Gabe Green's a favorite now. He's a more known commodity. I'm going to say over under 65% gifted Green.
I'll say over.
And it is not. 539 total votes, 79% Lainesse, 71% by knockout. For the 21% that have Green, 63% by decision. So the money coming in on Gabe Green. The fans overwhelmingly have Yohan Lainesse, a guy who already in his career, he's 1-0 against Greens. So that's good. He beat Troy Green, so that's fun. And he looked pretty good in that fight. All three judges scoring at 29-28. But again, for Lainesse, it's really hard, because if you don't watch that Burlinson fight, it's like, okay, this guy's beating the guys he should beat. He forces them into a striking battle. Cuts is a guy that can grapple. They struck, and then in the second round, Cuts looked like a dead man walking. And the nice step-in jabs from Lainesse, the really nice right hook that he has, the uppercuts, he kind of loads up on his shots, which Michael Bisping just continued to talk about because Burlinson was from England, and everybody loved Burlinson. myself included. But Lainesse is a guy that, could I see him knock out Gabe Green this weekend? Sure. I still think Gabe Green has more tools in his tool belt, but this is a really hard fight for both guys.
It should, exactly. Stylistically, it's a very fun one. This could result in a fight of the night style fight between them, but I also have Gabe Green.
Both of us going with gifted Gabe Green coming off the heart injury woes. We'll see how that plays out for him, and we'll see if Yohan Lainesse, like a fellow Canadian, can run through the 6 with his woes, but really it's the so sure. You know, Saint-Hubert, Varenne, Saint-Hyacinthe, I think he trains out of as well. Some big-time opportunities for another Quebec fighter and a big-time fight coming up this weekend. We have an interesting main event between Rob Font and Chito Marlon Vera, so you're not going to want to miss that. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.